All right, I've had some time to live with the egg video, and in doing that, I've been seeing some details that I didn't tease out in the initial first look, and I've also had some time to read comments what people are saying, right? Like the people that are trying to debunk it and all that kind of stuff. So, let me just start with the first thing. It's a balloon, right? So I'm going to give you a couple of reasons why this is not a balloon. And they're pretty obvious once you start looking at it in this way. So when you see the actual egg itself in the cradle below the helicopter, it is moving at a very steady pace. You know, it's 150 feet down. This thing has weight. So the helicopter's moving, and you could see by the rope or the line moving that the helicopter's moving. I won't say all over the place, but the helicopter is moving around, and it is having essentially zero effect on the inertia on the egg. So this thing is heavy. And the second piece of it is when it touches the ground, it maintains all of the momentum, because you can see the helicopter is going from left to right. The egg is going from left to right. And when it touches the ground, it continues to move to the right with all of the momentum that the helicopter had put into it when it set down. So it has mass. It has significant mass to continue to move after it gets set down like this, right? And it continues to go. It just keeps going. I mean, it could be on a hill, but I doubt they would drop this on a hill. That would make absolutely zero sense. This has to be a flat area, right? These guys know what they're doing. They're going to drop this thing somewhere where it's not going to roll down the hill. And the shadow, right? Here's another piece of it. Somebody was saying, well, how does the shadow doesn't make any sense if the helicopter has the light on it? Well, the helicopter's not shining a light down as far as I can tell. I mean, maybe it is, but if it is, it has almost no intensity, because there is zero shadow being produced under the egg. And I would expect as it would get closer to the ground, you would see shadowing off to at least a little bit on this side. And it's just not there. All shadow is coming from off camera over here to the top left. And that light is coming from an artificial source. I don't believe it's the moon. When the moon is this low in the sky to create that much of a shadow, it just does. I don't think it has enough intensity to cast this much of a shadow, right? This is a pretty high contrast from everything around it. So I think it's going to be an artificial light source coming from off to the side. No idea what it's going to be, but it looks like it's not very high off the ground, just from looking at the length of the shadow. Maybe it's like a parking lot light height, so maybe 50 feet up or so, something like that. Distance matters, but that's all I can really say about that. But also in the ground, you can see the detail of the shadow. Let me pause it. And let me wait till I get to a clear spot. So in the details of the ground, this actually might help us understand what exactly the ground is here. There we go. So I wonder, so it's light on this side. So every piece of detail that's sticking up with luminosity, right? The higher the luminosity, the more light's hitting it on the side. And we know the light's coming from top left. And these shadows also coincide with that. So if there's any kind of relief in the ground, you can see it's lit and the shadow is on the side here. So this has relief to it. So what this kind of looks like to me is almost like blown sand. You know how sand, when it gets blown, it gets that washboard type effect. And it gets a little bit random sometimes. I think that's what this might be. This may be a hard packed ground with some light sand on top with having that washboard type effect to it. That's my take, because even when you look in these details, there's no grass. Concrete would be far more uniform. Asphalt would be far more uniform. So I just think this is like a dirt field with some texture in it from the wind, basically. And it's not soft, because as the egg gets dropped, it loses no momentum to sinking into the sand. So this is a hard pack ground and probably sand that's been blown in the wind to create the look of it. All right, so we can see here This is what a long line looks like. So here's a Huey. It could be 150 feet, could be 200 feet. I didn't do the math on it, but you can see it's pretty far down. And the reason why I'm showing this is because the other thing was, if people were saying if this was being lowered from a helicopter, there would be wind, like a crazy amount of wind. And that really isn't going to be the case, because if you just look at the physics of how this is working, if this was the helicopter carrying the egg, it's moving from right to left. So if it's moving at 1 to 2 miles an hour or 2 to 3 miles an hour to the side, the wind that's coming off of the rotor wash, is going to be falling behind the object as it approaches where it's going to drop it off, right? So even though it's moving slow, the wind's not blowing out of here and going straight down real fast. There's a lot of fluid dynamics involved in the atmosphere and everything. So the wind is going to take time to get down to the ground. And by the time it gets down there, it's going to be behind the object. All right. And I also have another demonstration that shows with a, is it here? Yeah. So I'll play this. This is long line training with a similar helicopter. And you can see we have basically something here that's almost like a sail, right? This is one of those buckets they use for picking up water to drop on wildfires. And even though the helicopter is staying fairly stationary above it, it's not really being bothered by it at all. It's like right here, it's just staying flat. So his shirt is blowing a little bit. So there is wind coming down, but due to the distance between the ground and the helicopter itself, all that gets so distributed into, the air around it, that the energy from the helicopter going up and the wind going down, that wind is just getting absorbed into all of the air that's all around and below the helicopter. So it's not like it's a straight shot right to the ground. There's a lot of fluid dynamics involved with figuring all that stuff out. But this is just an example to show it's not blowing all over the place like crazy like you would see in the movies. All right. Now I'm going to do something else. Here is a look at this from an audio standpoint. So the News Nation has, in their footage, they have audio, right? Now what I wanted to do is see if the audio of the helicopter matches what sounds like a Huey, right? And it does to my ears. So let me play it for you. I go back and forth between the two. And let me kick that off. Okay, so the cadence of the rotor sounds similar. There's some background kind of like rumble sound that is probably just something within the Huey that just makes that, and I hear that in both. What bothers me about this is I don't know why. That's the only thing I want to say. I don't know why the audio was recorded. Okay, when you have a camera system that's designed to do something very specific, right? Like looking at it's like your maybe it's your haul line camera or your long line camera. It's going to be hard mounted to the bottom of your helicopter, and its job is to allow you to, number one, see your payload, help with alignment, and look for problems. There's no reason for audio to exist. And in fact, this video that's on YouTube has no audio to it, I don't think. At least not the helicopter sound audio, because I was looking for something to compare it to and I couldn't find it. So that is confusing to me as why, right? Why is there audio here? So if it's News Nation doing an embellishment for the video to make it more interesting, it could be that. At least they selected the right sound, in my opinion. But yeah, I mean, it sounds right. That's all I could just say, is just point that out to you guys and just say that's what I'm seeing in the comparison I've made. So with all that said, I think, when I look at this, it's this is Edit Bill talking. I missed something when I went through my review, and that was that I said in my initial take that this was a night vision camera. like a generation 2, 3, but green phosphor. I have a white phosphor generation 3 night vision, so I know how they work. I didn't have any familiarity with the green, but a guy named Ranger posted in there, said this absolutely is not night vision, and he's right. It's not. I got it wrong. This is just a high sensitivity, low light camera that's on the bottom of this helicopter. And the way you can see it is in all of the mess, right? All these vertical lines, right? You would not get that in night vision. Night vision works by excitation of phosphor that's coated inside of a tube. So what you'll actually get is, it's almost like the way a television tube is, like the old school CRT TV tubes that have phosphor on the inside of their, the inside of their tube. And when electrons hit it or photons hit it, it excites it. Night vision works in a similar way. When the photons hit the phosphor, they get excited, and then there's an amplification tube that's built within the goggle that will amplify that excited phosphor emission, which then sends it through the tube to your eye. So this was recorded with a sensor, and you can see with the noise in there and everything. This is a camera. I can't say that it's a camera hooked up to night vision. It doesn't appear like that to me. I mean, it could just be a really bad sensor that just has thousands of hours on it, but I don't know. It doesn't appear to be night vision, a night vision goggle type of view though. So I just wanted to add that in real quick. Clearly this egg has mass. It's not a balloon. The lighting in the scene makes sense. The long line, the way it's behaving and carrying something heavy lines up. The cradle that came up at one point where somebody's saying there's no way the military would use a cradle like this. Well, so you have to consider this is an egg-shaped object with no hard points to attach to. So you have to design something that's kind of specific for this. And it makes sense what I'm seeing here, right? Being an egg shape, the center of gravity is not going to be dead center. In fact, you could see it's actually tilted back towards the thicker side a little bit. So it probably has a center of gravity that's back towards the wide end and not the pointy end, which would explain why the shape of the cradle is like this, right? It's not just a flat band that goes around it. It goes around and actually cups the flatter end, which is most likely the heavier end. So this looks like it was designed to carry this object. So somebody put some engineering, there was some engineering thought that went into the design and construction of this cradle. So yeah, I think that's where I am with this. I don't know how much more detail or data we can get out of this clip, but everything I'm seeing here lines up from a physics standpoint and behaviors of everything that I'm seeing. So I know it's a heavy egg. I really don't know what else to say at this point. There was conversation in the interview that goes way beyond just me looking at what the camera picked up, right? They get into a whole bunch of other stuff, but I'm focusing just on this. This is what I know about. So that's what I'm doing. So thanks for watching. If you have any comments, if you have any ideas of what I may have gotten wrong, right? Because I want to hear those. And if there's anything you think I've missed, let me know.